Hey, what's up guys? My name is Dr. Antonio with Loud Chiropractic and Coaching here in Lafayette, Colorado, just outside of Boulder in Boulder County. Today, what we're gonna be talking about is the dumbbell snatch. Now, the reason why is the dumbbell snatch is a fantastic movement for promoting explosiveness and power as we're trying to get a unit or a weight from the ground effectively overhead. Now, we're gonna talk about a couple of the limitations that might prevent someone from doing this movement, or kind of a screening process as if this might not be the best thing for you. And the two main points that we have to look at in doing this is, do you have, excuse me, do you effectively have the adequate amount of range of motion, right? Meaning, because we're taking a weight, we're going up overhead, we should be able to have full 180 degrees of shoulder abduction and flexion. So essentially, can we get our bicep to our ear without severely compromising the rest of the system? So what does that mean? If I'm taking my arm up overhead, that's not what we're looking for. So I'm basically, so this is my shoulder range of motion, but I'm doing this to get it to 180 degrees or straight to the ground. We want to be able to have that by keeping ribs stacked over pelvis. Can I bring that arm straight up overhead, forward, and from the side? Okay, why? Because this movement's we're gonna finish here. And if you don't, that's just gonna create a pinch, also known as sometimes impingement, which is a normal process. That's kind of a separate thing. But we don't want to jam your joint into a range of motion it doesn't have. And we're talking about weight overhead. If I can only go here, now that weight is constantly pulling on me, and that's going to put more strain on your rotator cuff muscles and everything else that's trying to get you here. You just don't have the range of motion. So it puts force and load in a way that where it shouldn't be. We want to be stacked so that our joints and the skeletal system can help us support that weight. Now, the second criteria is being able to effectively hinge down to the floor. Now, what you'll see here is, look at the dumbbell, right? Now, we don't have the same view, obviously, but the dumbbell handle, if I can put it underneath. It is a solid like 6 inches lower to the ground than the barbell. Most of us are doing barbell type of stuff, and we can maintain the shape and hinge down to about here. But if it's a little lower, can I get there without compromising the lower back, and so on and so forth, right? Now, the benefit of that is it's one weight, and you can put it between your legs, which allows you to open up and use more hip range of motion, which in turn would put less stress on the lower back, right? It's essentially the same conversation we have about doing a modified sumo versus a conventional. Narrow stance could blunt your hip flexion, forcing you to round out to get lower. Now, that being said too, this movement is oftentimes done in kind of a touch and go, especially if you're doing multiple reps on one side. And what we want to emphasize is obviously control. The touch and go with the dumbbells, oftentimes people will tip the bell so that you can touch the ground further. Totally fine with that. But it's that downward motion down into this, which oftentimes we see a rounded back, an increased loading of that back under flexion too, which can cause issues. So the movement essentially looks like this. If I'm here, grab handle, yank up overhead, okay? Now, what I like doing is bringing it down, switching, touch, go, down, touch, go. As you get more comfortable, you can just do it as you go. But what we're talking about is this. We see this far too often as you're coming down, right? We get this. My hips stop. That's all low back. And then I have to also then round and pull up. Whereas if I shoot for kind of tapping behind my heels, it forces me to sit to my hips more, then I can touch and go a lot more effectively, right? But for those that maybe want to do snatching and get that pop, triple extension, explosive movement, but we don't have the coordination of the technique for a barbell, which is much more difficult, boom, we got this right here, right? Speed. Now, Why this could also be better is I'm a big fan of kettlebell snatches, but the kettlebell snatch, you have to have the kettlebell flip over. And for a lot of people, we don't have that technique down and we get this, slam, puts a lot of force or pain into the back of the forearm and the wrist. So from a technique standpoint, if you understand hinging, you understand explosion, which is really just jumping, and you have good range of motion, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to do the dumbbell snatch. And it is a perfect and viable modification option if we can't do these other ones, right? Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater saying you can't snatch. You just need to find the proper application that works for you. Now, obviously, we'd want to be able to enhance the range of motion if you don't have it so that you can do overhead explosive work. If for whatever reason, hinging down to the ground is not something you're comfortable with or do not have the mobility for, I would not suggest maybe a stool like this, is you can stack some plates, something like that. Now I can effectively do the same thing. I just don't have to go all the way to the ground. So I'm bringing the ground to me, slightly shortening the range of motion, shortening the requirements for mobility that allows me to still do a great explosive movement with proper weight to get the stimulus or the intention that you're trying to get out of the coaching, the programming, so on and so forth. So if you want explosion, which we all need, explosiveness, as we age, falls are one of the things that we're most worried about. If you trip and fall, right, your body has to be fast in order for you to recover. And so it's great and essential for us to be still training speed with our aging population because the requirement for speed is still there, right? Outside of learning how to fall, tumble, and roll so we don't break, we also want them to get fast so hopefully we don't fall and we can actually recover as an example. Obviously super effective for sports and athletics, right? We know we need to be fast and explosive. So consider the dumbbell snatch, adding it into your programming, asking your coach about dumbbell snatches if you're not already doing it, because I think it's a fantastic movement to be doing. So thanks for tuning in, guys. Once again, my name is Dr. Antonio with Loud Chiropractic and Coaching here in Lafayette, Colorado. I hope this video was useful and helpful for you. Please give us your comments. Let me know what you think about it. Share it with your friends who are maybe in a rut or doing the same things and they want to change up what their programming is or what their exercise selection might be. Until next time, guys, live loud.